Hi, my name is Kristina Strickland. I'm the managing partner of Rally Wealth and Benefits. And today I'm going to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that we see people make with their workplace retirement plans. So a lot of people know that at Rally Wealth and Benefits, roughly half of our practice is private wealth, working with individuals on their individual accounts. But the other half is qualified plans. So 401ks, 403bs, 457s, simple IRAs, workplace retirement plans. And because that is such a large part of our practice, we have the unique opportunity to meet with individuals weekly on their workplace retirement plans. And one of the things we have kind of compiled is a list of mistakes people make. So throughout the years, Joe, Bruce, Tatum, Kirsten, myself, and our meetings with workplace retirement plan participants, we have, again, like I said, we've compiled this list of 5 big mistakes. And so the first one is we meet with people that aren't participating. And so what often happens is you get a new job, or you get a promotion, or you get a change in work status. And there's so much being thrown at you. There's enroll in healthcare, enroll in your HSA or your FSA, give us tax instructions so we know if you want deductions or not from your paycheck. All of that kind of gets just bombarded. And so what often is lacking is the retirement plan, because here's the thing, your insurance is super important, right? You want to have that if you need to go to the hospital or have, any sort of medical things going on at all. So unfortunately, what that means is that the retirement plan normally is on the back burner. And so what often happens as we're meeting with individuals is we'll meet with someone who's been working somewhere for 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, and they're not in the plan because while that information was given to them on day one, they may not have taken advantage of it. So that's the first thing, is not participating. And then when we have conversations of, what's going on, what led to not participating, it's not because we're judging you at all. It's because we want to know if there is a barrier to your participation that we can help you overcome. And what often happens is one of the mistakes that leads into why someone's not participating is because they don't know how to invest it. And so I'll meet with individuals who say, well, I didn't do it because I didn't know what to do with it. And so here's the thing I would like to say. If you don't know how much to save, or you don't know how to invest it, there are 2 very, very, very simple rules of thumb. 1, save as much as you can for as long as you can, because you never know what may happen that could prevent that in the future. And so I'll use myself as an example. The first job I had that had a 401k plan, I was 18 years old, I was not married yet, and I didn't have kids. So it was very easy for me to participate in that plan because I didn't need as much take-home income. Well, then when I got married and had a house and a mortgage payment, and then I had kids and daycare, and I could still participate, but not as much as I wanted to. And so I'm very, very grateful for the years in the beginning where I saved as much as I could while I could, so that later on in life, when circumstances prevented me from saving as much, I had kind of built that foundation. So that's the first kind of rule of thumb, is save as much as you can while you can. The second rule of thumb, though, is you should, if possible, at least contribute enough to get the full employer match. So for example, if you have a workplace retirement plan where your company is telling you, hey, we'll give you dollar for dollar match up to 3%, or maybe we'll give you 50 cents on the dollar up to 5%, whatever that match may be, if you can afford it, try to put in as much of your money as required to hit that full match. So if I work somewhere that says, hey, Kristina, I'll give you 50 cents on the dollar up to 5%, I should be saving 5% so that I can get their 50 cents on the dollar. So I'll be at 5, they'll be at 2.5. I'm got a total of 7.5% of my salary being directed towards retirement. If you can do that, not everyone can start at 5%, and that's okay. Start at 1%. And then just maybe as you get raises, or maybe you have maybe you have a car payment or you have a student loan or something, that when those are paid off, maybe you can save more then. So kind of the 3 options as I see it are, do 1% just to get started. If that's all you can do, that's great. That's better than nothing. The second option is do enough to at least get the match. And then the third one is just save as much as you can for as long as you can. And when that one is, there is an annual limit defined by the IRS, how much you are allowed to contribute to your 401k plan. So when I say as much as you can for as long as you can, you should look up the IRS limit and see if that's something you're able to do. So for example, when I first started in this business, the limit was $17,500 a year. And so an individual could say, I'm willing to save $17,500 a year towards retirement. Again, that doesn't mean you have to, but there are limits. If you can, why not maximize the limit? The third one is if you have old 401ks, not keeping track of it. So what often happens is someone switches jobs. And again, I'm not judging. I'm just telling you what we experience, right, when we meet with individuals. But what often happens is someone switches jobs and they view that 401k almost like if you've ever worked somewhere that pays out vacation. So like you leave, you got fired or you quit or you take a leave of absence, and they'll say, okay, here's a check for your vacation. Some people treat their 401k the same way. They'll say, oh, I've left employer A, I'm going to go work at employer B, but employer A, I had a 401k, I've got $4,000 coming to me, and they'll just cash it out. Well, two things. One, you have probably cost yourself quite a bit in taxes and penalties. And two, you have now erased the track record or the good work that you've done towards retirement. So let's go back to taxes and penalty. If your 401k is pre-tax, meaning you have not paid taxes on those dollars yet, when you take them out, either in retirement or because you've changed jobs and you want to access the money, those dollars are subject to income taxes. And what that amount is will depend on what your tax bracket is. So if you're in like the 22% tax bracket, then guess what? Unfortunately, you're going to pay 22% taxes, federal taxes on that distribution. You will also have state taxes if you live in a state that has state income taxes. And then if you're under the age of 59 and a half, you will have, in addition to that, a 10% penalty applied as well. So if I'm in the 22% tax bracket, I'm under 59 and a half, I went from 22 now to 32 because of my 10% penalty. And if I live in a state that has, let's just say they have a 5% state tax, now I've got 37% of that amount just went out the door. And there's nothing I can do about it. Now, there are some exceptions, right? There, just like every rule and every regulation, there are some exceptions. But for the most part, if you're just taking your 401k out because you change jobs, and maybe a lot of people do this. They'll, I'm going to take a trip before I switch jobs, or maybe they're out of work for a few weeks or months in between roles. If you have to use the money, you have to use it. But here's the thing. You just need to know that, one, you're erasing your progress towards retirement because now you're starting over again at zero. And two, you may very well have about a third of it go away to taxes and penalties. So that's a huge one. The fourth one is investing incorrectly. So again, kind of one of the things I hear from people is, I don't know how to invest it. There are two things to be aware of. In every 401k, when I say every with quotation marks, because there are 401ks that are under the jurisdiction of the Department of Labor. And so the Department of Labor has a rule called a qualified default investment account. So a qualified default investment account, or QDIA as we call it, is the default investment, meaning a participant is enrolling in the plan, they're saving their money, but they have not selected what investment they'd like to do. The QDIA is normally a target date based on a participant's date of birth. And so, for example, when I started my job, I think the QDIA for me would have been a target date based on the year 2050. So the way target dates work is they're tracking when you're going to be 65. And so there's not one for every year, though. They typically go in 5-year increments. So like 2040, 2045, 2050, so on and so forth. For me, it was 2050 because that's closest to when I'm going to be 65. So the way those target dates work is, as an investor, I don't have to handpick, put 10% in this fund, put 12% in this fund, so on and so forth. I can just say, hey, you know what? Put it in the 2050. How it works is the portfolio manager or the fund manager of that target date will pick my investments for me. So they'll have their own version of large cap, small cap, internationals, bonds, all of that. They'll start off pretty growth oriented when someone's younger and they have plenty of time before retirement. And then as an individual or an investor gets closer to age 65, it gradually gets more conservative. So this concept of I didn't do my 401k because I don't know how to invest it, that QDIA kind of answers that for you. They'll do the investments for you. You are more than welcome to also pick your own investments. And the advisor on the plan should be happy to walk you through that. If it's us, we're absolutely happy to walk you through it. So you have the target date option. You typically have a risk-based option where you could say, hey, look, I don't know if I want to do the age thing, but I want to tell you that I'm a pretty conservative investor. So normally there's like a model or a menu, if you will, based on the risk level that you're comfortable taking. The other option is there's also normally, not all the time, but there's normally an option like a stable value or a money market fund or something that would be considered lower risk. It's not considered no risk, but it's considered lower risk. And so that would be my play for, hey, look, maybe you don't have an appetite for investing because while investing in the long run tends to pay off, it is still with risk, right? So maybe you're saying, hey, I don't want to do the 401k because I don't want to take risk. You should still at least put in enough to get the full match from your employer. Otherwise, you're just leaving money on the table. But you are more than welcome to say, hey, look, I'm going to do this because I want to get the match money, but I'm going to go the most conservative investment possible. If you're looking at your fund menu and you don't know what the most conservative option is, reach out to the advisor on your plan because they're the ones that picked those funds and they should be able to walk you through that. So QDIA, target dates are great. You're welcome to pick your own funds or talk to the advisor on the plan and have them walk you through it because here's the thing that I don't know that everyone knows. And I want to make sure, especially clients of Rally Wealth and Benefits, I want to make sure that you are aware. Advisors don't work for free. No one works for free, right? So, and I say that to say, there is an advisor compensation built into your 401k plan. There would be no matter what. A lot of people think their 401k plans are free. They are not. But here's the thing. That's a good thing. That means someone is literally getting paid to make sure that as a participant in the plan, you feel fully equipped and empowered to meet your retirement goals. So if you're looking at the list of investment options and you don't know what to do, you need to call that advisor because they're getting paid to answer those questions and to help set you up for success. So use them because you're paying for them regardless of whether you use them or not. You might as well take advantage of it. The kind of fifth and final mistake that we see people make, in addition to if they're not contributing or they don't know how much to save or they don't know how to invest or they've left employment and they've spent it, kind of the other main thing that we see people do is we see people use their workplace retirement plans as an emergency fund. And so, yes, it is your money that you have saved, but I think the important distinction there is it's your money that you have saved specifically for the goal of retirement. And so if you are thinking to yourself, okay, look, if I had to buy new tires tomorrow, or if I had a medical emergency and I had to pay my out-of-pocket deductible, or if we live in Tornado Alley in the Midwest, if I had to replace my roof and I had to pay my deductible, if I could not do those things out of my emergency fund, then in the 401k plan, you should only be contributing enough to get the match. So I would say contribute enough to get the match, then have your emergency fund. And once your emergency fund that's at your bank, that's not a part of your 401k plan at all, once that it's at a place you're comfortable, then you can put more in the 401k plan. Because here's the thing, again, some 401k plans do have an option to take a loan, but you're paying interest on that loan. And that is, again, prolonging the time before your successful retirement goals are met. So yes, it's your money, but it is, again, I just cannot reiterate this enough. It's your money earmarked towards a specific goal of retirement. So you need to have other buckets of money. So like I have my emergency fund, that's my plan. I have my retirement plan. I have my money set up for my kids to go to college or go to trade school or buy their first apartment, whatever it is that my kids are going to do. So that's kind of their bucket. The 401k that's mine. That's my future self. Because I know two things to be true. No one ever regrets starting earlier or saving more. No one regrets that. What people often regret is misusing their 401k when they just were getting started out. So if you don't have an emergency fund, probably focus on that first. Don't let those retirement assets get used for an emergency fund for a couple of reasons. Again, you don't want to reset the progress that you've made. You don't want to deal with taxes and penalties. Again, up to a third of that could go away in taxes and penalties. And then the third one is the market can be volatile. And so if you have to use your 401k as an emergency fund, there's a chance that you may be forced to sell out of some investments when it's not a good time in the markets to do that. So if you can kind of invest your 401k with a plan of, hey, I'm not going to touch this money till I'm 60, 65, 67, whenever you're planning on retiring, that freedom and that time frame allows you to be a lot more efficient in your investing. If you all of a sudden have money that you've been investing with the mindset of I'm not going to touch this for 20 to 30 years, but a year later you need to use it for an emergency fund, that could mess up how you've structured your investments because you may be taking more risk than you should if the plan is this is also money I would use because I need to replace my tires or because I need to pay a deductible or whatever your emergency is. I want to be very, very clear. Those are best tips and rules of thumb. Life is life, and unfortunately, sometimes things happen. So I don't want you to hear what I'm not saying. It's your money. You can do with it what you will. We just, having done this and met with participants for many, many years, those are just the big mistakes I see people make. And again, we're never here to judge you. We're always here to walk through options. And so I want to say, if you are faced with a situation of, I've got a 401k, I don't know how much to save, I don't know how much to invest, let us know. We're happy to help you. Or if you're faced with, I have a 401k, but I also have this emergency and I don't know where else to get the funds, let us know that as well, because there are often resources and tools available to you that could help. If you have to use the 401k, you have to use the 401k, but let us help you explore every avenue possible first, because maybe it will help save some taxes and penalties and help you, again, meet your goals of retirement. So no shame in that game. Reach out to us. We would love to help regardless of in the plan, not in the plan, but have questions. That's what we do at Rally Wealth and Benefits, and that's what we're happy to help with.